Hey, everybody. Welcome. We're going to get going here in just a couple of seconds. But just to give everybody an idea of what's going on here, we're sponsored fully by fishingbooker.com. It is fishingbooker.com Thursday. We always have a cool video to show you on Thursdays from Fishing Booker, but we couldn't do this show without our great sponsors. And today, fishingbooker.com is really stepped up and become a great sponsor of the show. And I want you guys to know that you can go on any charter boat anywhere in the world just by putting in your zip code, letting them know what zip code you're in, how many people you got, and they're going to find you the right captain to take you fishing and find out what you're into. And it's kind of a great experience going with the fishingbooker.com guys because of the fact that they are professionals, and we go to a different town or a different country or a different city all the time. And before Fishing Booker came out, we just kind of had to wing it. Now we can find out who is going to fit into our schedule the best and who's going to fit into our fishing style the best. So check out fishingbooker.com. We'll show you a little video a little later on in the podcast. But today we have a very special guest. We have John Fernandez from his charter boat. He's got 2 charter boats. He fishes giant bluefin tuna. He's going to tell us all about that. He's going to tell us all about what he's got going on, the name of his charter boat business, and everything that is John. So, John, what's going on, buddy? Where are you at? What are you doing? And how did you get into this weird fishing thing?
So I'm actually over in the Northeast, and I got into the fishing thing through fishing with my father. We started bottom fishing in Buzzards Bay, and it was fun, the bottom fishing into tog and striped bass and things of that nature. But as I got older, my uncle took me under his wing, and I started giant bluefin fishing with him. Back in those days, everybody was pretty tight-lipped about tuna fishing, so it was hard to get in the game. But through sweat and lots of tears, we got in it and started catching giants. And fishing with my uncle, I ended up later on down the road seeing Harpoon boats and seeing other charter boats, and always wanted to be a charter captain myself. So I ended up buying a 31 JC that I currently run now, and we harpoon giant bluefin out in Stellwagen and all the way down to Chatham and further. And I also have a 28-foot center console, which is a Master Marine that has a pretty good history. It was actually one of the Mooney boats that was famous out of Gloucester that we also run for giant bluefin and striped bass and bottom fishing and things of that nature.
Well, hey, I want to get into how you got into fishing, though, because it takes somebody to take us fishing when we were little kids. Somebody took you, and you mentioned your father, but you swept over it rather quickly. I want to go backwards. I want to go all the way back to when you first started fishing, because this show is all about taking kids fishing. It's all about the future of fishing. And if we don't get these children involved, we're not going to get to fish, because they're on a mission in the United States of America to stop us from fishing. We are, for lack of a better word, we're the enemy, and we're trying to break that. So can you get into what it was like fishing with your old man when you were a little kid?
Yeah, absolutely. So my father, not only was it fishing, but for us, it was food on the table. So my father started us off, bottom fishing, Buzzards Bay for scup, tautog, striped bass. And I remember the first time I ever hooked onto a tautog, which was, like 16 inches. It was the greatest feeling in the world being a kid. And catching all the other scup and things of that nature. But my favorite was, going striped bass fishing with my father, and, going down the Elizabeth Islands and out to Martha's Vineyard, Cuddy Hunk, drifting pogies. It was just an awesome experience. I remember wanting my own tackle box, as soon as I could, and saving all my birthday money and everything, and running to a tackle shop to get my first tackle shop and get my first tackle box and lures and my first fishing pole. And that was always the gift for my birthday. I always wanted a new fishing rod. That was always what I wanted. That a tackle. Didn't want anything else. Didn't want cash. Had to be fishing gear. And from there, my father and my uncle were both great to me, as a child, taking me out fishing. And when I decided to get into more of the big game fishing, my uncle had a cottage in Sandwich, and he would take me during school break. He would take me fishing every day. I was his mate. I was only 9 years old, and I was handling the whole boat with him and going offshore and going after bluefin. It was a great experience, and my uncle just really took me under his wing, making squid rigs, making daisy chains, doing the live bait fishing, going chasing bait. Um, it was probably one of my best childhoods. Was going and spending the whole summer in Cape Cod. And we love it on our own boats, taking kids out and putting that smile on their face when they hook their very first fish. And then they start getting into a bigger class fish, and everybody starts bottom fishing and works their way up to striped bass, and then wants to get into the big game offshore stuff, and once you get into that offshore game, it's the adrenaline and just the hunt is crazy, and that's what keeps me going every season is just hooking onto a giant bluefin, and it feels like you're hooked to a pickup truck. There's no other feeling.
Absolutely. I grew up since I was 3 years old fishing with my old man and working on the boats and the whole thing. And I'll tell you what, I can totally understand what you're talking about. I'm 64 years old, and it resonates like it was yesterday going out on the boat for the first time when I was 3 years old. And I'm telling you what, gang, if you're not turning a child on to this thing that we do, that we are addicted to, you are missing out, because it's all about the kids, and it's all about getting the kids out there and doing this fishing thing. And I don't care what it is, because a lot of us don't have the money or the resources to go big tuna fishing. So it's just all about fishing. It is all
Absolutely.
about fishing. It is so much about fishing. And you don't even understand most of the time that it isn't even fishing. It's just being on the water, being out there.
Yep.
I just did a 3-day extravaganza with the War Heroes, and we did War Heroes on Water, which is a huge event in Southern California put on by Anthony Shea and Freedom Alliance. And those men and women, they were actually spent some time on the back of the boat explaining to me what this means. We're saving people's lives. We are absolutely saving people's lives, taking them fishing. I don't care what level it is. So it's very important to listen to John here and to see what he's talking about and feel what he's talking about. Right, John?
Absolutely. I mean, I just took my first mate. I took her nephew out fishing, and it was choppy, and we had waves coming over the front of the boat, and he's getting sprayed in the face. He's only 8 years old, and he's loving it. And we finally got out there and started bottom fishing and going after some black sea bass, and it was the greatest experience this child has ever had. Just being, and again, it's being on the water, even more than the fishing. It's just being on the water, having the experience. They see all those electronics and what do they do, and what do all these buttons do, and it's just great seeing the smiles that come across these kids' faces.
Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember the captains letting me steer the boat, and that was
Exactly.
that was the most important. I thought I was actually doing it, little known that it was on autopilot the whole time, but I thought I was in charge of the boat, baby, and I was doing it. And it's such a it's such a great thing to turn the young people onto today, because basically they're stuck on their phones. So if we can get them out there on the water, it is a life-changing event. I'll tell you what, as bad as I was, fishing saved my life. It
Absolutely.
definitely did. I don't know how old of a man you are, John, but I'll tell you what, as long as you're fishing, you're winning.
Yep.
I agree.
So let's talk about how you got into this charter boat thing, because you said something that caught my attention real quick is harpoon bluefin tuna fishing. Now, we have a harpoon fishery out here on the West Coast, but it's strictly swordfish. We don't really have an opportunity to harpoon bluefin tuna. Our bluefin tuna are much smaller than yours, even though we call them giant bluefin. They're 200 pounds. 300 pounds
Yeah.
is a whopper, and 350 is like unheard of. 400, you might as well just have a parade. You're going to never see one 400 pounds again. And literally on the East Coast, we're talking about barely able to keep a 200 pounder.
Yeah, over here a 200 pounder is pretty regular. Most of our fish are 500-600 pounds. This year in Cape Cod Bay, we've had fish 800 to over 1,000 pounds. It's been a great season. But my big thing with the harpooning, and one of the things I loved, and again, goes back to my childhood and walking the docks in Chatham, and meeting people and meeting other captains. I met a good friend of mine named Rich Levangie. My father had a grocery store, and he came in and he started talking tuna fishing, and hooked me up with somebody talking tuna fish. We're going to talk for hours. And he was in my father's store, and we started chatting. And he goes, "Would you like to mate for me?" And I said, "Absolutely." My eyes, lit up. I got to go on a harpoon boat that I've always wanted to go on, and come to find out, it was one of the most productive harpoon boats in Chatham. And I worked as a deckhand, and seeing them throw that harpoon into a giant bluefin and electrocuting them and bringing them down the back of the boat and coming into the dock with a full load, there was nothing like it. And I always said to myself, when I get older, I'm going to buy a harpoon boat. No matter what, at all costs, I'm going to get one. And so probably about, I'd say maybe 10 years ago now, I bought my very first harpoon boat. I bought it from a guy that it had sank on him, and I restored the whole boat, and with a good friend of mine, and we've been harpooning that boat ever since. And it's just one of my childhood memories and one of my dreams to always own it and to just go out and do it. And so here we are today, and harpooning bluefin, and the class fish that we're harpooning, like I said, are 800-900 pounds, 1,000 pounds. They're like refrigerated doors. It's just amazing. And the view from the tower, as a kid, I didn't even understand it until I got to climb that tower that's 20 feet over the boat, and you're looking over the ocean. You see a whale a mile away. You could see bluefin crashing, basking sharks, and now we're seeing great whites down our way. It's just amazing.
Yeah, nothing. Todd Manser, he's big time swordfish fisherman for a long time out here on the West Coast, and he's watching right now. And he has nothing's better than harpoon fishing. There is just something about that. It's selective fishing. You're selectively one fish at a time harpooning one fish. It's a total sustainable
Absolutely.
fishery, and it's a great fishery. But for a second, because we're going over so much content right now, what is this electrocuting the fish thing? Because a lot of us were like, what the hell are you talking about? What are you talking about electrocuting the fish?
So with giant bluefin, there's a few things. One, if you're rod and railing a giant bluefin, they get lactic acid in them. So what we're trying to do is not have that happen. So we want to kill the fish as quickly as possible. And the other thing is, obviously, we don't want to be chasing a ball all over Cape Cod Bay, chasing a bluefin down like they do in Jaws, because it's counterproductive. So what we'll do is we'll electrify the fish, and these things, this isn't something you're buying in a store. These are made by certain commercial fishermen, um, myself included. And, we rig these things on boats so that we can actually electrify the dart. It's a very dangerous tool. There's not a lot of safety features on them. So it's one of those things I just want to advocate. Don't just try and build one of these. You want to talk to somebody who's done it. But what we do is we have a button in our tower, and when I'm out on the stand and I throw the harpoon into a fish, my wheelman will actually hit the button, which sends voltage right down an aircraft cable that we have tied to our dart, and it actually electrocutes the fish. And these fish are instantly dead, and we're bringing them right to the back of the boat and putting them on deck. And there's no lactic acid buildup in the fish, and it's a much better quality fish when it goes to the market.
Oh, okay. I see. I understand. It just instantly kills the fish.
Yes.
All right. All right. That makes sense. So then when you go harpoon fishing, you don't get to take charter people out, right?
We do not. It's a commercial fishery.
Right. It's 100% commercial. The guys on the boat have to have commercial fishing licenses, kind of like the West Coast. So then when you're charter boat fishing, you pull this harpoon gear off and you're using the same boat?
So we actually keep the harpoon gear on because it's just the tower and the pulpit. And we actually just put rod and reels on and go out. So out here in the Northeast, we have two categories. We have our general category or harpoon category. With general category, we're allowed, at least this season, was one fish 73 inches or greater. And we can use any type of gear to catch that fish, whether it be harpoon or be rod and reel. So, and we have a charter head boat license on the boat. So that allows us to take clients out.
All right. So we've learned about your your harpoon fishery. Let's talk a little bit about bait fishing for these fish, and what is it like on a charter on your boat? How many people? What are we going to do? Are we going to go strictly tuna fishing, or can you do bottom fish fishing? Can you do some small fish fishing? What are we talking about? What are we looking at?
So we cater to the client. So it depends on what they want to do, and obviously what's running at certain times of the year. But we'll do bottom fishing. We do haddock trips. We also do black sea bass, tautog, striped bass. And then if you want the offshore experience and you want to go tuna fishing, we'll do that as well. But a typical day with us, if you're going bottom fishing, we're going to be fishing in the bay. We can either group a charter for 4 hours or 8 hours, depending on what the party wants to do. And we'll fish primarily in the bay for tautog or black sea bass. And what we try and do is just load up on as much meat as we can to make sure the clients go home with, full bags of fillets. And the same thing when we go striped bass fishing. When we're going striped bass fishing, we're primarily trolling has always been good for us, as well as we'll use live bait mackerel and fish in the bay and on certain shoals with live bait. But when we get into the tuna game, it's more in depth. And anybody that knows me or that's watching this will say I'm probably one of the better charter boats to go on, and I'm going to tell you why. I am one of the most stubborn captains that if there's a slack tide and it's 5 o'clock and we're supposed to be at the dock at 5, I'm looking at the charter. If we don't have a bite, I'm like, you guys want to fish the next slack? And most of the time, people are like, let's do it. My other half doesn't care for it too much because we're getting home at 9, 10 p.m. because we're trying to fish as long as we can. But it's just my passion for fishing, and I love it. And I want to use all the opportunities to catch fish. So with tuna fishing, slack tide's important for us. That's primarily when the bait comes up to the top of the water column, and that's one of our prime times to try and get a strike. So out here, we're pretty much using live bait like mackerel, whiting, pogies, herring. And what we do is we suspend them at certain depths. So we'll use a balloon as a float, almost like a bobber, like you do for freshwater fishing. But we'll suspend baits at certain depths. So we'll start off with like a floating bait, and then our second rod might be down at, say, 40 feet, and our third rod might be down at 80 feet, depending on how much water we're typically fishing, which usually is anywhere from 100 feet of water to about 200 feet of water when we're live bait fishing out here.
Captain Judd, there's 2 questions that popped up for you. One's from
Hold on. We're going to answer all the questions and everything in just a minute. Let me show you this video real quick about Fishing Booker, and then we'll jump in this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tiffany.
Oh, no worries.
We got to show this video, and then we'll jump back in here.
Absolutely.
Well, alrighty, gang. FishingBooker.com. If you're anywhere on the planet and you want to go fishing, and I know y'all do, or you wouldn't be watching this show, wherever you are, go to fishingbooker.com, put in how many people you have and exactly where you're at, and they'll find a boat. They'll find the best guides on the planet to take you out fishing to make your vacation even more than it already is. Fishingbooker.com has a guide and a boat for you and your family. Go to fishingbooker.com, and at the end of this, look at the QR code. Use that QR code, and you'll save $50 off your next Fishing Booker trip. And check out that fishingbooker.com QR code, gang. That'll save you on your next trip. And hold on one second. I'm going to move myself out of here and get. There you go. So, John, Tiffany, they got a few questions. Go ahead, Tiff. Read them to them.
How big is your black sea bass? Are they huge like the ones out here on the West Coast? I added some words, sorry.
So I don't know how big yours get out on the West Coast, but we're anywhere from so our commercial, for example, our commercial license for black sea bass, they have to be 12 inches. But we're typically looking for jumbos, which are roughly about 16 inches, is what I'd say our jumbos are here. And that's a pretty big black sea bass for us.
Yeah, our fish is a totally different fish. It's not even the same kind of fish. It's a group. Ours is a grouper, and they get to be 600 to 800 pounds. Yours is like a bass.
Exactly.
But there you go. So that's one question. Go ahead, Tiff.
What charter boat does Captain John run?
So I will run either boat. So depending on where we're fishing, which is why I try and cover both sides of the Cape. If the fishing's good on Stellwagen, we'll run the JC. If we're running after wrecked tuna fish and doing top water, or if I'm fishing Cape Cod Bay, like the Buzzards Bay side, I'd be running my center console, which is a 28-foot center console.
But I think what they want to know is, where do you run your charter boat out of? How and what is the name of your charter company?
So my charter company name is Fernandez Charters, and we run out of Scituate, Massachusetts, as well as New Bedford, Mass. So the center console's in New Bedford, and the 31 JC is in Scituate.
Nice. Now, how in the heck did you get to know Tiffany?
So, again, going back to chartering, I wanted to build my own fishing rods. Every captain, and I'm sure both of you included, we all have that something we want to change on a rod, whether it's the tip, the grip. And so I always wanted to learn how to build my own rods, and not only and even for making my own colors and making it personable to the boat. So I started searching for rod building courses, which I ended up joining some of the Facebook groups, rod building Facebook groups. And I took my first course through Mudhole, which they came to the Northeast. And it was good to get my feet wet, but I wanted more. And so I ended up seeing Tiffany's page on one of the Facebook groups, and I joined it. And I'll tell you, it's unbelievable the stuff I've learned. And all the way from putting components on to measuring your arm, to making sure that the rod is comfortable to you, to make sure that it's tailored like a suit to the individual who's going to be using the fishing rod. And we became great friends, through doing all of this. And she's great with all the instruction. She hands out her phone number, so I bother her from time to time asking questions. And all the patterns and all the stuff that we've been learning. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, she separates herself from everybody else when it comes to instruction. Like I said, just being able to tailor a rod to an individual, where I never knew that you measure from an elbow to the palm of your hand, or pressure points in your hand would affect holding a rod. And like doing spiral wraps, and just her work is incredible. And hopefully one day I can fill her shoes.
I think you're on the way on that one, Dave. I sent you a picture of some of his work. Could you please put it up for me?
I would love to. So go ahead and talk while I'm putting this up.
Yeah, keep going, John.
Oh, me, huh? So yeah, I mean, we've been learning a lot with putting on guides and decorative wraps, and how to read certain weaves. And I also got my other half involved in rod wrapping now, and she's loving the course, and she's like fallen in love with building rods now. And she, last night she's telling me, she's like, I have all these themes and thoughts I have for rods. We're gonna do a Boston Bruins rod. We're gonna do a Patriots rod. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Got the bug.
Tiffany's created a monster. But I mean, even the whole dealing with vendors and learning where to get all of these components. And we've had, Tiffany and I were talking the other day about some of these rods, that get imported from other countries, and everybody thinks that you have to buy them in Italy, or you have to buy them in wherever. And come to find out, they're right in our backyard at our vendors' stores, and we're actually paying to ship them to these other countries, and then shipping to pay them back, paying duty tax to get them back to us. It's just funny how the whole circle of components goes. But everything is here in the U.S. and right at your fingertips. And Tiffany's taught me that one well. And just she uses a lot of students, to also teach one another, which I really like. I've learned from other students. I've actually taught some techniques that I learned. And it's, like I said, it's just a great class. She's very detailed in her instruction. She records all her videos so that you can go back, and if you have a question, or you need to look at something, it's really nice because you can just go and stop the video and rewind it and look at it 10, 15 times, whatever you need to get it done. So I like all of that.
Absolutely. I've almost got these things up here, Tiffany. So go ahead and talk to them for a few more seconds.
John, I got a quick question for you. Something that I'm going to be showing in the classes, but have you used the ReelQuick reel seat yet?
I have not.
Okay, we're going to go over something of that in the class. So and your wife is in one of the classes, I'd like you to sit on there and check this out. I mean, ReelQuick reel seats are kind of like the new thing that can solve a lot of problems, huh, Dave?
Oh yeah, they check all the boxes. It's pretty amazing that no one had came out with a way to hold your reel on your rod until this cat came out with them, and they're pretty. There you go.
There's one.
There's a rod.
So explain your idea on this one, Captain.
So that was just a marbling design, just playing around with different colors. And Tiffany's taught us so well on you don't need a lot of tools to do these things. You can use a pick, you can use a toothpick, you can use a nail. It's just wild. Everybody thinks you have to go crazy with buying tools to build
Yeah.
rods. You really don't. It's just all simple stuff that you have around the house that helps you build a lot of these rods and make them look cool. And you can personalize them to your customer or to yourself. So that's what I was just playing around with, just color. And I have some other ideas on other marbling techniques, and especially after seeing some of the stuff you're doing, Tiffany.
You'll get there. It's all learning stuff. Here's another one. Explain this one too with your roller guides.
So this is a stand-up tuna rod. I actually had one of my charter clients came out on the boat, and again, this is how you start building rods for people. He came out. He was using one of my rods. He fell in love with it. Had to have the rod. He wanted to buy the one that was on the boat, and I was like, absolutely not. So I told him I could build him a rod, and I built him the same exact rod, same blank. These are the colors he wanted for his boat, because his boat has that teal color in it. And this is primarily just we use a 50 wide Shimano Tiagra with this rod. And we've bent some pretty decent sized fish on this, 300, 400, 500-pound fish. And with stand-up gear, it's a breeze to get them to the boat. People are loving it. And he's ready to order more rods now. He's got the bug too with purchasing these custom rods and tailoring the colors to himself.
And then
One
we
of
got
the beauties.
What's
Sorry,
that?
Dave?
What?
Well, that one's one of my favorite ones right there that you've done.
Yeah, so this one I'm actually trying to finish up for October 1st, because that's when our giant bluefin season opens back up. This is going to be a 130-pound class rod. It has the Winthrop big roller guides on it, so you can get the swivel through with your fluorocarbon leader and all of that stuff. It also has the Winthrop adjustable butt that I'm putting on the rod. So we're going to be field testing those in October. And again, this is why I wanted to take the course and why I love it so much, is just the things you can do. I'm playing around with, a real sensitive tip on this. And from what I've seen that this blank can do, I really want to put some pressure with some giant fish, like 800 to 1,000-pound class on it. So stay tuned for more information on that blank. But we're going to be bending some big fish on that.
You can just send me videos, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what are some of the things that has popped out? I know you discussed a little bit in the class, but what is the one thing that you enjoyed the most in the courses?
So one of the wraps that I've really enjoyed was the Tiger wrap. Learning how to do that, I just love the way that flows on a blank, and I want to build some rods with Tiger wraps in them. And the marbling was another one of my favorites. Just seeing how you simplified it. I always like overcomplicate things when I'm looking at it, and just seeing you break it down, and I'm like, wow, like this is actually really simple. So and the spiral wraps, that's a big thing for us out here, especially with stand-up fishing. The spiral wrap rods, actually they just don't roll. Where a conventional, when you put in roller guides on and everything, and you get a lot of torque behind the rod. I don't care whose rod it is, you always get a little pull, whether it's right or left. With those spiral wrap rods, it's just the way it pulls and the way you're fighting these fish. It's the way a rod should bend. And and it's great, like having Keller, when you brought him on to show us doing the spiral wraps. I learned a lot. And again, also, another thing, I was trying to over complicate it, and it's so simple the way he showed it to us.
Absolutely. What about when after you take the course, you go out and you're trying to, fiddle things on your own, or for an example, when someone comes up to you and wants you to build a rod, you and I've had lots of conversations and laughing about this. What is one of the key things, especially for the viewers that are going to be doing the same thing, going into rod building as a business or a side gig or something? What is one of the key problems you run into when a customer is asking you to build a rod?
So it's it's pretty funny. So, people, you'll ask them, what type of rod are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for a bass rod, like medium action. And they don't know what line weight, they don't know what power they want in the rod. And these are all questions you have to ask your clients. And as well as you should know, if you want a rod built, what type of power do you want in the rod? Do you want a graphite rod? Do you want a fiberglass rod? All of these things come into play when you're fighting fish. So that was one thing that was great with Tiffany. She was, showing us power ratings on rods, line ratings on rods. And, we've learned, I've been doing this for quite some time, and we've learned that these big heavy broomsticks that we all used to use for fishing rods, and when I got into fishing with my father, they were all just heavy, heavy tips, and you couldn't even feel the bite. You were using a broomstick. Now we're all dealing with sensitive tip rods, and the way they feel in your hand and everything, you could feel it all the way down to the butt end when you're getting a bite. So those are all things that come into play when you're building rods, and those are the questions you have to ask or tell the person who's building the rod that you want tailored into your own blank and your own custom build.
Yep. Absolutely, absolutely. How about the guides, learning about, the materials of the guides? How does that help a rod builder as well as an angler once they learn exactly what the components are made of?
Absolutely. I mean, the guides are a whole nother topic. I mean, there's so many of them out there, and I even get confused at looking at some of them, which is why I always reach out to Tiffany. And but I mean, like this carbon guides, where some of us use wire line out here. You don't,
Mm-hmm.
if you just use a monofilament, you don't need those guides. So there's a whole bunch of different series of guides. Roller tips, getting into giant rods, where Winthrop has come up with some beautiful guides. We always had problems because we're using a fluorocarbon leader, like a 20-foot fluorocarbon leader with a barrel swivel on it. If you use an AFTCO guides, for example, you can't get that swivel through the guides because it's too tight. So Winthrop came up with these nice roller guides that we can get everything onto the rail. So that way, when we're fighting a fish, we can get them right up to the boat, harpoon, and make it easier on the angler and easier on the crew.
Yep. In the class, I tend to really stress on knowing what the components are, knowing what
Yep,
the different materials of the blanks, the different level ratings of the RXs from RX4 all the way to RX10.
exactly.
And to me, it's like, a lot of people don't understand it. They don't realize how important that information is until they really start getting into building. Then when questions are asked about, how a rod functions, you need to really know the materials that you're using to build that rod. Kind of about the materials kind of reminds me of last week. We had a guest speaker on here, John. He threw me, another John, not you, another John. He threw me for a loop, and he was asking me if I've ever seen a blank that had all of the materials combined in one. Now, me, I don't like to step on someone's toes. I don't like to make a comment or something that's going to belittle somebody, because that's not right, or embarrass someone. And I didn't know if he was really believing that you could have a company is making blanks that has all the materials combined. So I'm sitting there trying to praying, saying, okay, how do I come out and tell them this isn't possible without, making a big ordeal out of it? So in my mouse voice, I'm just like, no. But we've talked a lot about like the S glass and the E glass and the graphite.
Absolutely.
So it was that just totally, I'm sorry, that just totally reminded me of feeling like a little
Yeah.
mouse going, how do I do this?
And I mean, there's a lot of blank manufacturers out there that make great blanks, and it's all in what you want and
Yeah.
what you're looking for, But it's funny, just like the tackle industry, the rod building industry, we were just talking about this, is the same. People are real quiet on what blanks they're using because nobody wants anybody to tap into whatever product they're coming out with. And it's the same thing with fishing lures, what's the best fishing lure, and everybody, I hate to say it, us fishermen are just as bad as the fish that bite the hook. We chase everything. I got it on red yesterday. Everybody's going to buy red. I got it on, this 130 blank. It's the best blank on the planet. Everybody's going to buy that. It's all about tailoring things to yourself, to your crew, and to how your boat performs and how your boat acts.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't take that into consideration. Some boats have high gunnels, some have low gunnels, and all of it play a part when you're building rods and fishing. So, always make sure you tailor everything to what your style of fishing is and to what type of boat you're using as well.
Exactly. One thing I wanted, hoping that you could share with all the audience is a tip on something that you learned how to do. If you can explain, like, a certain step that really helped you in, for instance, the tiger wrap that you didn't know before.
Yeah, so I mean, with the tiger wrap, I didn't even realize there was that many steps in the tiger wrap, So in the sacrificial threads and all of the stuff that we do with the tiger wrap, it was just like I learned from being visual and watching you with your videos and stuff like that. But the tiger wrap was one of my favorite wraps to learn, and also the other one that I learned a lot off of was how to read the what was that, this the spider,
The Black Widow.
The Black Widow. That
I
was
used-
that was a brain teaser, and but you know what? After we got through that, it was amazing because you could look at other wraps and you really could figure it out. So I learned a lot on that Black Widow.
That's a hard one to learn, but I figure if the way I look at it is when I teach the harder patterns or show the harder patterns and then go back to a simple pattern, you can actually, you'll learn better than starting, simple patterns on up. But if you look at the design of the pattern, which angle to go, which directions to go, the whole 2 arrow this way, 3 arrow that way. When you look down the whole pattern, it's mind-boggling. But then you turn around and you look at a cross wrap, like a diamond wrap, a reverse chevron, you're like, that's easy.
Exactly.
And then we go back to, teaching more of the actual pattern. But yeah, the Black Widow, Lisa's like, oh, Black Widow? Hi, Lisa.
Just wait for that one.
She's like, oh, I can totally see her face. Oh. But yeah, that's all stuff that's important, especially, you don't have to go and buy booklets on, the cross wraps and stuff. There's other ways you can, and I showed you guys in class how to find the patterns, how to make the patterns. It's just, it's all a learning thing. And I hope the way I do it really helps people learn this craft, where it sinks in their mind, not where, you take a 2-day class, learn how to put it together, and then 3 months down the line, you don't remember what you did.
Exactly. And that's what I like about your course. You start from, the beginning and you simplify everything. And then you do the advanced course and you learn a little bit more and a little bit more. And that's what's great about your course, and even if there's something in the course that you want to learn, Tiffany's always willing to share. And, like the acid wraps, and I had questions on different blanks, and you're a wealth of knowledge, which is great, and you don't get that with a lot of instructors. You just pay for the course, you do it, and it's over. you know with you, I think you build a relationship and you get a longtime friend out of the deal, as well as you always have somebody that you can rely on. And whether you have a question on components or where to get something, or just a question on how to build a rod, or whether it's a thread weave or setting up guides or acid wraps or any of it, it's just great to have you at my fingertips that I could just give you a call.
I'm always here for you guys. I told you that from the beginning. I'm always here.
Well, real quick, I want to talk about this real quick, gang. Tomorrow night is opening night of lobster season, and we are going to be live. We're going to be live on Captain Al Clowers' boat. Brian will be there from Promar. Al and his deckhand and Brian are going to go live because we just want to go live. And then Justin's going live on Saturday night from Catalina, and Lisa's going to be the charter master on the boat, and they're going to be live fishing at Catalina lobster fishing. So, gang, if you don't watch us, you might want to check us out. We're live all the time. We do 6 days a week, live podcasts. We're lucky enough to have Tiffany and her dad with us here on Thursdays. But every single day is super exciting. You just don't know who's going to be on here or what we're going to have coming down the pipe. But tomorrow night and Saturday night, back to the live fishing hoop net, which got us all started on the live fishing shows 2 years ago with Justin Bottrell. We caught over 2,500 legal lobsters on a 6-pack charter boat for this season. You can document, you can go look at it. All the episodes are available, and you can go see what it was like to catch 2,500 plus lobsters, legal lobsters. And then last year we had a kind of a crappy year. We only caught 1,800 and something legal lobsters on one of the boats. But we're going to be live again. It's going to be all great. Something to do at night. Instead of watching Netflix or woke TV or something, you can actually watch lobster fishing live. It's going to be super cool. And John, I would love if you were to watch it with us, and everybody that's watching.
Absolutely.
Because John's on here today. I thank you guys for watching. I really get off on this, but you guys can watch us live every single day. There's something going on Your Saltwater Guide. And then we'll bring John back on here again. But hey, Dave, how are you today?
Avast me, hearties, yo-ho. I'm doing just fine and enjoying the show. Sorry I couldn't be here from the beginning. Getting ready to go off on a professional adventure, and I'm busily getting ready. But
All right.
Where are you going, Dad?
Oh, you don't want to know.
He's going to go fishing, I'll bet.
Well, I'm going to go working as a boating safety and compliance consultant. And
all right.
I've got to go to the Caribbean.
Too bad.
Don't need any sympathy. It's okay.
And I get left behind.
Yeah, but I'm getting ready to go do that. But listening to this so far since I came on, listen, folks, it is a blessing to have Captain John here. I mean, boy, does he know his stuff. Boy, has he been great in class, and he's offered stuff as well as soak stuff up. But he runs a tackle shop as well as a boat, and there are kind of a limited subset of us who have that background. And it's funny how he was talking about one thing being in high demand one day and another thing the next for the same fish. And boy, we have seen that. And a lot of times what happens is a very well-known deckhand or skipper will go on social media and say, knock them dead with this lure. And then all of a sudden, there's this rush of people in the door all wanting that lure. And well, you have 9 of them in stock. because you hadn't sold more than 4 of them in the past month and a half, and everything else that has been selling for that fish is still going to work. But it's, what drives demand in a tackle shop these days has become a very rapid thing. And it's hard to, you can't have 8 pegs of everything. You don't have that many pegs or that much budget for it. But, you have to be ready for the changes. And so you're watching social media and you see that happen, and you call up your distributor and say, "Oh, send me 8 dozen of these right now," and they go, "Have them to you in 3 days." And you go, "No, jump in the vehicle or something, get them here." It's kind of a strange business in that regards. And, and John, both a boat and a tackle store like Tiffany and I did, you drive some of that same social media too, because people genuinely want to know what worked for us out there in our case, maybe on white sea bass yesterday, And so, I say, hey, the biggest number and the biggest fish came on a Salis PL 68. And, I better have some of those in stock, because we're going to get a lot of visits on that.
Mm-hmm.
You ever heard the story of how Salis PL 68 name came about, Dave? No?
No, I haven't.
Well, story I got is Mr. Salis went on a boat out of San Diego many years ago, and they were kind of looking for white sea bass. and they were getting some, but it's like, they're biting, but they're not biting great. And he said, "I think I can fix this." So we went home that night, worked all night long, came up with a longer, specially shaped lure, and didn't know what the currents were going to be. So we made a heavy one and a light one, went back out the next day and passed some around, and they just started banging big white sea bass. And that was how that lure became popular. It was in 1968, Point Loma, PL 68.
Oh my gosh.
Interesting how some of these namings come about.
Yeah, absolutely. We had Scott from Tatty Lures on here, or a book on Tatty Lures, and he was telling us about some of the unique names that were created over the years.
Yeah, Tatty is another big name. Caught a ton, well, way more than a ton of fish on those guys. What are some of the biggest name lures you have in your area, Captain John?
So, well, on the tuna game, we have Geo Shoots, which is a great lure. We usually troll ballyhoo behind them. And then, a lot of stuff is pretty much just, if we're doing trolling, it's a lot of squid rigs and things of that nature. But we're using X-Wraps is a big thing for us for striped bass in our area. And again, it goes down to colors, right? Oh, we got it on the tiger stripe. And all of a sudden we're sold out of the tiger stripe, because one guy got a 40-inch striper on it, but all of them work, and same thing with, with squid rigs and Joe Shoots, we all have our favorite color that we think is the favorite color, but, all of them work, I firmly believe. But, for all of us fishermen out there listening, guys who are in the tackle industry and guys who are trying to get their lures out there, just like they're trying to get their best rod out there, us fishermen, we're so secretive that we never give any of these guys props on their lures for actually catching the fish. I've had this conversation with Joe Shoot. He goes, "John," he goes, "thank you for telling me that my lure is the greatest. Will you tell other fishermen?" But none of us want to do that because we don't want other people to catch fish like we do. So, it's just funny how the tackle industry works. So make sure you always get out there and shout these guys out for whatever lures are working on your boat, and help them get their sales out there too if they're trying to make a living.
Yeah.
That's such a good point. For all those years out there, I've been a writer. I write for various publications, and and do all kinds of outreach things. And I individually have never been secretive. If I'm catching fish in a certain area, I'll write an article about it, you know. And if I'm
Yep.
using a certain lures and this, that, and the other thing, certain line, you know, I'm writing about it. So I've never believed in the secrecy thing. And so it was always funny to us. Like we'd be at the tackle store and people would come in and they're trying to buy things real secretively in some way or another, right? And
Yep.
don't tell anybody I'm using this, you know. Well, okay, but you read it in my article yesterday, and everybody read the article. You know, it's always the secrecy thing to me has always been really, really humorous. And you
Oh
know,
yeah.
the next day when we were out on the boat and headed out of harbor and turn around, there's 4 boats coming behind us. You know, I just take it as a compliment. But as Captain John knows and Captain Dave too, you may go fish a certain place today and you may really bang them. But you go back to the same place the next day and the current may be different. You may need to move over to the west side of a reef zone instead of the east side where they were hitting yesterday. We learn how to read those things and react quickly. And then all the boats that followed us out, they're on the same exact part of the reef where we were banging them yesterday. And their rods aren't bending and they're looking over at us and our rods are bending and they're all upset and think we didn't tell them the truth. You know, you got to be able to read the water at the moment too.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right.
One of my favorite sayings from a captain I used to mate for was fish have tails. They're always going to be moving. Where they were today, they're not going to be tomorrow.
Right. They're not afraid to use them.
Yep.
No, I have a website. We have over 5,000 members that teach people where to fish, how to fish, when to fish, what to fish for. But one thing that we can't do is we don't know what the condition. It's all about conditions. It has been since the beginning of time. It will be until time ends. And we can tell you exactly where to fish and exactly when to fish there. But if the conditions aren't going to be right, they're not going to be right. So, and then the other thing is lure fishing, gang, it's what they're eating today is what they're eating today. It's not what they ate yesterday and it ain't what they ate tomorrow. So one thing I would tell every single, now I have only been doing this for 52 years, so I really don't know what I'm talking about. And I understand that. But what I would tell you, if you want to be consistent and you want to make money for the rest of the time that you're on this planet, share everything. Share every single thing, no matter what, John, because if you don't, guess what? They're not, you may be having a great business right now, but you ain't going to have a great business for very long, you know,
Absolutely.
because nowadays, instantaneous, grabbing information instantaneous is so real. And it, you know, we didn't have an internet when David Bacon and I started. We just did not have an internet. There was no way. You looked at the back page. What we did on the West Coast, we looked at the back page of the LA Times, and that kind of told us where the fish were biting at. Now, we didn't know what to do when we got there, but we used that as our as I'll just say we used that as our local knowledge, for
Yeah.
lack of a better word, or for our code group. But nowadays it's so cutthroat, and there's so many young kids that just think they got the get all, got all, get out. They're the best thing since sliced bread. Let me tell you something. None of those guys are going to be around in 20 years. They're just not. They're just, when the bluefin leave or the whatever they're fishing for today leaves, they're one dimensional. So they're not going to catch anything else. You got to be totally open to everything. I've been able to, and Dave's been able to make our living doing this for 50 plus years because we're multitasking all the time and we're able to roll with the punches. We're not the greatest bluefin fishermen. We're not the greatest sea bass fishermen. We're not the greatest calico bass fishermen. We're not the greatest anything, but we're able to put together a good day of fishing for our people on a daily basis.
Because we
Absolutely.
work hard at it. We work
Absolutely.
really hard at it.
And the other thing
and
too,
these guys that run around today telling you, oh, I'm the best there ever was. Well, you're the best today. Yeah,
Yep.
That's a wildly different story.
And one thing too, keep a logbook. That's one thing I will tell you. You want to talk about reading the water, keep a logbook. When you go out in June, July, or whenever your season is, you look at your logbook and you look at those conditions. And for the most part, if those conditions line up, you're going to have a good day where you did last year. So logbooks are very important, as well as, again, share the information with one another and help each other out on the water. That's what it's all about.
And there's something to be said about that logbook. I never kept one. I suck. I'm that guy. But Mr. Steve Lasley, he's the best fisherman I've ever met in my life. And he's been doing this for 60 plus years. And he can tell you exactly what the weather was like Saturday, June 12th, 1984. And he can tell you he can just go, give me 2 minutes. Okay, 1984. It was flat, glassy, calm. The wind was out of the west. There was a slight uphill current and da-da-da-da. And you're like, what the hell? But that's what separates the guys that are going to be here for a long time to the guys that are just flashes in the pan.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And I'm blessed that I've got this phenomenal following, because I saw people at the War Heroes that came from back east that follow me. I'm just blown away. And I thank you all very, very much for all the followings and all the, I'm just a guy, and I'm just doing what I got to do. And I'm just bringing you all along for the ride, because it's all about collaboration. And I just built the better mousetrap. That's all. But we're all here.
You built it well, and we're enjoying it.
We have coming up this Saturday is going to be the last day to register for the next 15-week course, where it's same thing, $130 for 15 weeks. You get a free rain shadow blank with that as well. And what I'm trying to do, and I explained a little bit last week, was that trying to help a lot of the new coming rod builders that want to go into business and bring them to shows with us. And we've got the show coming up in April, the California International Boat Show and Lifestyle, where I'm doing that huge booth and having all of the new upcoming rod builders, be able to showcase their builds and sell them. And then they'll do a seminar of what they've learned and whatnot. So sign up if you want to learn how to build rods. The early bird special ends Saturday, then the price goes up.
Absolutely. And you can get that at vaguerods.net.
Correct.
vaguesrod.net. You can get everything you want. You can get everything, all the components, all the rods, whether you sign up for a class or not. You can still purchase stuff from Tiffany.
Up to 40% off of MSRP.
She's got the best deals going, gang.
Hey, I just wanted to agree with Lisa. She just put up there, we love YSWG. Go, Lisa.
Yeah, we do. Hey, John is jumping on here. River Cats Tackle. He was our guest last week. John and everybody, every single person out there that I haven't answered for the last 3 or 4 or 5 days, I know you're going to find this rather lame, Dave, but I was at Catalina the first day of the War Heroes, and I didn't want to wake anybody up, so I was getting off the mooring can at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was being all stealthy, and I was holding my phone in my mouth to drop the mooring line, and I dropped my phone over. So if you guys can call me, text me, whatever, I gather up all your numbers again. What I did for the last year and a half was, I guess I didn't save the numbers through the cloud, so I got it's a giant nightmare. I got about 1 million phone numbers, but I'm missing about 1,000 phone numbers for the last year. So if I haven't gotten back to you, it's because I don't have your number. If I haven't
You're not mad at me then. I thought you were mad at me.
My God. Everybody, I hear that from everybody this week. I don't have your phone numbers, gang. I dropped my phone over. I have a brand new telephone I got online yesterday on the train to Cabo. I rode a train down to the airport in Tijuana, and I put my phone together. So it's all brand new right now. So everybody, and John, I need to talk to you, River Cats Tackle, especially if you want to be on the show with me on Saturday going live. That would be awesome. So let me know, everybody, Lance, every single person, Lisa, everybody out there. I want your phone numbers.
Us technological dinosaurs have problems like that. I understand. Or maybe you just need better mouth muscles, to hold your phone tighter when you do that.
Exactly. It was so stupid. I was just like, there it goes. Bye. And it's 4:00 in the morning. I'm a fat old man. I'm not jumping in the water. People are all, you should have jumped in and saved it. I'm like, yeah, right. Bye.
Was it a whole slow motion that you were seeing happening?
Oh yeah. Me all by myself. Watching
Oh,
the phone go over.
oh my Lord.
Oh my Lanta. Oh my gosh. Well, there you go. Now you know why. But thank you, John, very much for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you.
And if I can help you at all in any way, shape, or form, let me know. We got 800,000 plus followers.
Perfect.
Big numbers. Those are serious numbers.
Yeah, they are. Go get 100,000 and call me.
John and Lisa are gonna come with me to the Anaheim show. I hope you do too, Dave.
I'm going to be there. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. We're all gonna be one big happy family. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking
I can't
forward
wait.
to it.
Yeah, nothing like having an internet-based business and not having a phone, I'll tell you.
Oh,
Yeah. Well,
save
thank you all
everything
very.
that you get on the iCloud now as they come in. Save them.
Oh, I'm getting them. They're coming in. We're going to get them. Hey, thank you all very, very much for a great day, a great show. We're going to see you tomorrow at 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. We got some great announcements to make about lobster fishing tomorrow night. Great prizes we're going to be giving away. You got to watch the show to win the prizes, though. That's how it works. It doesn't work any other way. John, let them know one more time how they can get a hold of you when they come back there to go fishing.
So it's FernandezCharters.com. I do have a Facebook page as well. And I also have Fernandez Fine Rods, which is on Facebook right now. We're redoing our websites. And you can always contact me or text me at 508-245-0114.
John, spell it out for them, those that want to know it, so they can find you.
It's FERNANDES charters.com.
There you go, gang. You can get a hold of him. He'll take you fishing. He'll take you sightseeing, whatever you want to do when you come back there to go fishing with him. He'll take care of you. And Dave and Tiffany, thank you very much for another great show. And Dave, try to have fun on this trip. I know it's going to suck.
I'm
Yeah, I know it
jealous.
sounds terrible.
I'll try. I'll make an honest effort to have a good time.
It'll probably be hot and sweaty. I know you, but you'll let us know.
It will.
He's gonna send me pictures. Look, I'm in the Caribbean. Here's my fish.
Yes. Indeed.
Wish you were here with me.
Well, thank you, everybody. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day. Turn off the news. They're all lying. This is the only place you get the truth. And I'll see you tomorrow with